Hey y'all, hope there are a few of you that may join me today. I'm going to invite as many people as I can, and I wish you all were out in the sun somewhere. I'm inviting some people. Join me. Help me invite some people, please. All right, I'm done. The rest is up to you all. All right. Hi, y'all. Let me see. What's the best way for you to see me clearly? You can see me? Hi. Hey, there's one, and there will be one. All right. Hey, Dawn. Will you all invite a few people to join? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're going to get started. What I didn't say in my post is this message has been stirring in my spirit for probably about four years. It's time for this baby to birth. In fact, I'll be honest with you all. I wrote my thesis, one of my thesis papers to acquire my degree on this very topic around communication. Of course, it's around communication in the media. Hey, thank y'all for saying hello, because I don't know everybody that's on or that type of thing. But invite your friends. In fact, invite some of your friends to Good Girls Gone Goddess. If it's been working for you, work with somebody else. So, I want to, Holy Spirit. I've been dealing with something all morning. Probably for the last 4 or 5 days, actually. And I want to say to the mothers, especially the single mothers, but mothers in particular, your children definitely will open up the opportunity for us to heal. Can y'all hear me okay? I have the volume turned up, and I forgot to bring my my headphones out so that my voice could project, because I am outside. I'm not in a closed environment. So I want to do a test. Can you hear me? Can somebody put in the chat whether you can hear? Okay, good. You can hear me. Good. So one of the things that, when we talk about being a goddess, and we talk about even, our femininity, and even our relationship to orgasm, our relationship to in our marriages, you're raising children, all of these things. There's one thing that must or cannot be avoided is communication. One thing that cannot be avoided is how we are conveying messages. Many of us will, talk about being shy or quiet, and I understand that there are personality types, but and I understand that for shy people and for quiet people, communication, and introverts, and for instance, introverts, communication sometimes can actually be painful for them. It's not easy sometimes to communicate. Then there are those of us who are talking all the time. It's people like me who are ministers, who are teachers, who are performing well. You get an excellent performance evaluation at work. You are doing your job. You got all A's in school. The good girl absolutely is excellent when it comes to doing what it is that she needs to do. I'm trying to find the right position so y'all can see me, because the sun is kind of drowning me out a little bit. Which I need the sun to recharge me for when I share with you some of the things that I've been dealing with. But what I see this consistently even with many of my clients or a lot of my sisters, is that we think that we are communicating because we're telling somebody something, or we sometimes good girls tend to take the high road. We want to take the high road. The truth of the matter is a lot of us are passive aggressive and we avoid conflict because many women who are not invested in being angry, who are not invested in being let me back up when I say this. Well, I'm going to put the context in, and I don't mean to insult anybody when I say the ghetto style communication, where you're always hollering and you're always screaming and you having fights and that kind of thing, right? I call that the poverty type of mentality. In fact, so many of us who are intellectuals, we are progressive. This is not something that we tend to engage in. But let me tell you where the breakdown continues to happen. It happens not only in the breakdown in our sexual relationships with our mates. It happens in the breakdown. It doesn't just happen in the breakdown of our work and our friends. And now with social media, it's so easy to cut people off and block people. But see, the blocking started happening long before we got on Facebook. Can I talk a minute? Can I teach a minute? The blocking and the unfollowing people happened long before we got on Facebook. Can we just be real about that? We started blocking a long time ago, but we would call it other things. We blocked out memories and experiences that we had so that we could survive and perform in the world. We unfollowed situations just so that we could not have it show up in our life. You understand? Can I talk a little bit? We unfollowed the story of our mother and our daddy, or maybe our family situations and our family drama, so that we could overcome, so that we would not necessarily have to continue exactly what we did. And so now we get into social media and we got to go and advertise that we blocking somebody. Now this is not where I'm going. I'm just laying the backdrop. Now, many a times, a lot of people sometimes will come. They want to do their work. They want to heal. And people want to, and I see it all the time. I want to do the work, but. And a lot of times when a sister doesn't have the money, she'll say, well, I'll just get back to you. I don't like to owe nobody. And so instead of her asking for what she wants, she's already made a declaration that she cannot have it, because she makes a declaration she can't have it because she don't want to ask anybody for something. So the breakdown in communication starts with us as women, as strong black woman thing, long before we ever decide that we are going to stop, quote unquote, talking to somebody, before we decide that we are going to block situations. Now I'm getting to it. And so, not to mention, if you've been hurt and you don't have the tools to do your work, you don't have the tools to communicate. So therefore, there are people in our world, our mothers, our fathers may not have the tools that we have to communicate. And so here we are now, we're performing in the world, we're surviving in the world, and we don't want to ask nobody for nothing. And we wear that as some kind of badge of honor. And then we take pride in what we've done for our children and what we're able to do by not asking anybody for anything. And we talk about how independent we are, yet we're struggling and suffering on the inside and tired. And then, not to mention, when we're pissed off. How about that? The pissosity. It doesn't matter, ladies, whether we are telling people what we feel or not. It still is a communication. It still comes through. It doesn't even just matter in just the tone of our voice. Sometimes I used to ask myself, well, why did they say that? I posted that little thing from Iyanla, and a lot of people were looking at it like, oh, how dare she talk to Neffy that way, and I don't like the way she says things and that type of thing. And I understand that I understand that there are certain people that trigger us. There are certain tones of voice that make us feel some kind of way. But usually it's not the person that is the issue. It's the issue that's the issue. issue, but we don't deal with the issue. So let me say this. I've been in a situation for, I've been in my relationship for almost 4 years, right? And of course, I inherited some bonus children. I am a bonus mom. I'm a village mother. And I have 3 sons. And, when the situation first started off, it wasn't ideal, and so, and I'm only talking about this publicly because there's been a breakthrough and in terms of my situation, and there's been such a breakthrough that there's so much ministry available. It's so much healing available to blended families. It's so much healing available to families that are coexisting right now around this type of thing. And women, you are the key. You are the priestess of your house. You are the priestess. I don't care what we've been taught. We've been looking for men to show up and do and take care of situations that we are the ones that influence. So that being said, about one of our sons has been getting in trouble in school. I mean, like chronically in trouble. And you all know that, if you worked with me, you know that I definitely understand that if this stuff is showing up, there's something else going on. And so I'm like, okay, I'm watching it from a neutral place. And I've been playing the role of the neutral observer and trying to be positive, be butterfly for 4 years. Now, the situation, the kids are getting older, and so certain things begin to show up with the children. A lot of times the children may not be saying words to you because they don't know how to say words. I didn't know how. When my mother and father were going through their divorce, I didn't know. I didn't have the words to articulate. And the truth of the matter is, many of you are parenting because you don't have the word. You haven't had the words either. You're parenting the best way that you know how. And you haven't articulated some of the things that are still going on with you, and vicariously through your children or protectiveness of your children, you have not done your own work. And so I thank my little baby, my baby son, the youngest son, who has been the gift. All of them have been communicating. They felt safe enough to say some things that they maybe have been holding on to. I give thanks for that. When they said it a while ago, I listened, I held space for them, and I said, now, are you willing to say what you said in a family meeting? I'm going somewhere with this, say it to my face. Because we got to teach our children not to gossip. We have to teach our children not to be manipulators. Because it's so easy to accept this bullshit because many of us are bullshitting ourselves about where we are and what we feel. And so I listened. I held space. But I understand that they're children, and that they see things through the eyes of children, and that it's our responsibility to be the ones, to be the keepers of their heart and teach them how to keep their own heart. And so one of the babies said, I'm letting the helicopter pass. One of the babies said, yeah, I want a family meeting. So I said, okay. So, okay, well, the adults got busy and that type of thing, and the behavior did not change for the baby and that type of thing. And so then another incident happened, and another incident and another. And this is what happens in our lives. Incidents keep happening. And then at that point, we're at the crossroad. We either blame or we try to distract from the situation, but we never deal with the situation. And so, like I said, the issue is the issue. And then most of the time, we're not communicating to the issue. That's point number 2. The issue is the issue. Point number 2 is we don't communicate to the issue. And sometimes you cannot communicate to the issue. Sometimes you cannot settle the issue with the issue without a third party. And oftentimes who we think is the issue is not the issue. Yeah, I understand it's a little coded because everybody has to walk down their own street, go out in their backyard, pull up their own weeds, and understand where the issue originated. The issue did not necessarily originate with your ex-husband, your current husband. The issue did not necessarily originate with your mama. I had to look at my mother's communication, which was injurious sometimes. It was wounding communication over time because I was a sensitive soul. And so I had to look at what I couldn't change her. I had to dive into what was going on with my mother because everybody has a story, right? And so I'm passionate this morning. I'm hot. I ain't mad at nobody. I ain't tripping or nothing like that. I just been turned up, all morning, and I thought that this was a perfect opportunity because I see some of you all do it. I see many of you all do it. And I do expect more for those of you who are juicy butterflies, those of you who have been in a healing process. And the biggest thing that I can say is say it to my face. If you're willing to say certain things about people on your timeline, if you're willing to say certain things about people to other people, can you say it to their face? And it's not, and how we end up saying things has a lot to do with the issue. Not just the issue, not the incident is the issue, because the incident is really never the issue. The issue is usually the issue that created the incident. But many of you who dip in and out of working with universal law, who dip in and out of doing your spiritual work, who dip in and out of being consistent, you don't believe that. And I understand there was a period in my life where I didn't believe what I was necessarily reading worked. And so what we do is we end up leaning back onto what we have known to work for us. And sometimes what works for us is the protective mechanism. Sometimes what works for us is the intellectualizing. Sometimes what works for us is what other people tell us to do, or our fear about what other people are saying. So we got a text message this morning. Text message wasn't so nice. And I said, LaTanya, who are you? What are you going to do? And I did what I am called to do. And it was time. The communication that happened was so God-filled. It was so necessary that I could not make this stuff up. I could not have planned it to be any better than what had happened. Was it uncomfortable? Possibly for my husband. Was it uncomfortable for his ex? Sure, but the children are living uncomfortable. Come on now, some of y'all got to think back to the times when you have lived uncomfortable. Maybe your whole life you lived uncomfortable, and that became your normal. But it doesn't have to be your normal, and it doesn't have to be your children's normal, and it doesn't have to be your children's normal. So that said, a lot of times in communicate, when there's a breakdown, there's a lot of assumptions made, and those assumptions come out in passive aggressive communication, text messaging, inboxing on Messenger, posting on your Facebook page about incidents that you have not talked to another person about is passive aggressive, ladies. It's passive aggressive. I don't settle. I'm not a priestess when I act like this is a word for that. A minion. Y'all ever watch that show, The Minions? We want to walk around just because we're female and claim just because we're female. Can't nobody tell women nothing. We got these feminazis that are now, that's my name for them. And I've heard somebody else use it, these feminine Nazis. I'm not that. I'm not coming with the energy of a feminazi. Because the goddess works with both the yin and the yang, and in the center of the yin and the yang is you. And so we always have to deal with ourselves when we're too much yin and too much yang. And there's some women who are too much yin, and there's some women who are too much yang or yang. And that's the work that we do in the juicy spirit process. And y'all let these feminazis break up your homes if you want to. You let these feminazis walk around with what you call it, these periods. That now somebody just came out with some tights with period stains on them and lost their damn mind. When it comes to us, there's a certain sacredness that happens. So in this conversation, there were things that I knew that I needed to say to her. Now, the third point is timing is everything in communication. There are certain times when people cannot hear each other. The wound is too fresh. The issue is too hot. Or sometimes it's just too volatile. So timing is everything. And so there were times where I had opportunities and there were times where I missed opportunities, and I own that. And sometimes when we miss opportunities to communicate our desire, when we miss opportunity to make our requests known, when we miss opportunities to tell the truth about what it is we really feel about a matter, sometimes decisions are then made that exaggerate even the other issue. So now you got issues on top of issues because you never address the original hurt. Now let me tell you that. Let me say what I mean by the original hurt. The original hurt is oftentimes your issue. Your original issue. So if your daddy left you, your mama wasn't there for you, your mama over nurtured you, you felt abandoned, you felt rejected, you wasn't good enough. That's your issue. And so when I say address the issue, so then we move into our life and we start making choices of mates. We start making choices of colleges and degrees. Sometimes we've gotten degrees, not because it's not something that we're called to do. We got degrees because we were trying to be safe. We were trying to play it safe in our lives. Okay, so when I'm talking about the issue is the issue, that takes a woman to put on her big girl drawers. Everybody ain't trying to deal with their issues. And that's not necessarily for us to judge or to force on people. All right, there's going to be some people who are going to oppose growth and development. There are going to be some people who are going to oppose your healing. There are going to be, even in the community, just because we're black don't mean we family. And that's the mistake I made even in sisterhood. I thought because, the scripture says, let us be perfectly joined together by the same mind and the same blood. That's what the scripture said, ain't it? And so we get so such much even in our religion that we forget that everybody has a role to play even in the collective. And so everybody ain't gonna always celebrate you moving into your healing and your awarenesses and your ahas and the deeper communication that you have with spirit, and yea, even your spiritual gifts. Everybody is not going to honor your spiritual gifts. But does your communication with the divine stop? Well, some of you, yeah. Some of you, yeah, it does stop. You stop communicating. I stopped communicating. So anyway, yep, I'm trying to still get the light so y'all can see me. So listen, there were so many assumptions that I let go and let ride for the sake of the children. Oh, come on now. Y'all can talk to me about what the decisions we make for the sake of the children. We put a lot on the babies. You stay in marriages for the sake of the children. You leave marriages for the sake of the children. Come on now. We make a lot of other decisions. I want to go out. I want them to have $125 pair of shoes, but you want to invest in your healing. You go spend $125 on a pair of shoes, but you won't spend $125 on a workshop, a seminar, or your coaching. Hello? We won't spend $125 on or $325 on investing in gold or a business or what. We look at that suspect when somebody has the unmitigated gall, the audacity to invite us to do something different that's outside of our comfort zone. Come on now, we look at it with suspect. But we're trying to overcompensate. You know, I talked about that. Go look at the other videos if you haven't had a chance, about how we overcompensate, you know, in terms of being good, and in terms of trying to live vicariously, you know, through our issue, quite frankly. Communication, there's a point number 4, is always happening. We are always communicating something, even if we're not talking. When you don't show up, you communicating something. You know, the first person that told me that was Iyanla Van Zandt. She called me out on it. She said, yeah, I haven't seen you in a long time. She said, I knew such and such, such and such, whatever I was at the time. She said, I knew something was going on with you because you wasn't here. I'm like, what? I ain't supposed to always be here. I ain't supposed to. But you see, how we enter and how we exit is a communication. There have been times in my life, on my journey, where I have removed myself from situations because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. There have been times in my own life where I have removed myself, you know, like mathematics. Y'all know how you go and you do the math and then you take one and then you remove it. Well, little did I know that was a coping mechanism. So many of us have removed ourselves for situations so that we wouldn't have to show up. So we wouldn't have to show up and face what it is we need to say, what it is that we want to ask for, what requests that we're making. Because the truth of the matter is, we don't want to deal with the fact that the fear that we're afraid that it will not be supplied, that my needs will not be met, because I haven't dealt with the hurt and the breakdown of unmet needs of the old time or the past, or the guilt and the shame for when I didn't handle it right. Everybody is working out their own curriculum on this journey, right? And so nothing is final except that we say so, right? Like, even when we see death is really not final, even though we've been taught that it is. It's just energy never ceases, never dies. It only changes form. The same is true with communication. Communication is energy. It never ceases. It never dies. It changes form. But it is the heartbeat of a marriage. It is the heartbeat of a friendship. It is the heartbeat of our family relationship. Our families are breaking down and are like crazy. In this community, this social media, please, let me say my point number 5. Spirit said to me, if you can't say who you really are because of your brand, then you building an image. You're not building a contribution. You're not building a mission. You're not building a ministry. If you can't show up and say and be who you really are, then what are you really building? And many places that's acceptable. That's acceptable in certain industries. Maybe you want to be more Hollywood than you want to be Mayberry. I don't know. What are you really asking for? Our families are being broken down because it's not just how we say things. A lot of times how we say things is because we never got the tools to know what to say or how to position it or how to say it. We have been a people that have not believed in therapy and counseling. We have not done that well. And so many of our mothers did not have us in therapy and counseling. And so now we count it as an option to continue to work on ourselves. And so when I asked this question to my fellow sister, and I said, do you believe in healing? Do you want to heal what's happening? And she said, yeah, I do. And I said, well, this is not a conversation that should be happening in text message. And we had the conversation off of the phone, and she shared with me, and we listened. A lot of times when we're talking, we want to talk all over people. We want to jump in. We want to only wait and just to give our response. We're listening just to reply with our response instead of listening with our heart center. And many times we don't ask for what we really want from our heart center. It takes some practice and some getting used to do it. And will we mess up? But do we give people permission to mess up in our life? Do we give people permission to try to work it out? Or we want something presented to us on a platter, already ready, dressed and everything. Okay, so as we were talking, I asked her, I said, do you think that this anger that you have for your children's father, that your children do not feel this? And she said, well, I don't say certain things in front of them. I did, and that wasn't true. And so I was able to actually call her on some things that she had said. And I said, there were things that my mother said about my father that I never forget right now today. I'm over 40 years old. I still remember some of the things that my mother said about my father. And I look like him. What do you expect? And then you turn around and say stuff like that. You know, I used to hear things like, you look just like that no good ass. I used to hear that. So how do you think me as the child felt just by being me? So that being said, she listened, I listened. She talked, I listened. I talked, she listened. Till we got to the point of some huge ahas of things that needed to be communicated that had never been communicated. And it was things I needed to say to her. I needed to say to her because I know this. Here's the things, ladies, as I wrap this up. I'm a woman. I know who I am. I'm a goddess. I'm a mother. I'm a priestess. I know what the effect and what I have said that I'm having in the world, what I've come to do. And when you know who you are and what you have come to do, then everything begins to rotate around that, even the incidents that make us uncomfortable. Because the incidents are not the incidents. The bills, the survive, anything. I'm responsible. I create my life. And even if somebody shows up as a player in my life, guess what? I created that too. Because the scripture says, it shall not come nigh my dwelling. What does it mean it cannot come nigh my dwelling? What am I talking about? What is Abraham Hicks talking about when Abraham Hicks talks about getting in the vortex? See, when it can't come nigh your dwelling, when we begin to vibrate at a certain vibratory rate, it's either going to fall off of us or it can't even come into the vibration. So if it's coming in your vibration, it's there for a reason. You either invited it or it's there to be a lesson, a teaching, or healing. And guess what? It's all right. You can handle it. I could handle it. And sometimes when we think that we are taking the high road, we are doing more harm than we are doing any good. And what I mean by taking the high road, sure, I took the high road many times on behalf of the children, but it had gone too long. There was some things that was floating out there because communications are just dangling. They're energy, just floating out there. And there were things out there sometimes that we never address in our families. There are things that we never address. I already said we don't address certain things in ourselves. But withholding is a communication. Why am I so passionate about this? And y'all know why I'm passionate. Some of y'all know why I'm passionate about this, because you all know that I know some of your withholds. You all know that I know some of your passive aggressiveness. When we don't pay certain things, when we disappear, when we hop in and out, hopscotch, hop, jump rope, whatever, that we do. We do. I know it because I know me. I know what I have done. And I told her, I said, I possibly could have been the change agent a long time ago. But there were things that I didn't say to you. And I said there was, and she said to me, I lost my words. She said, I asked you to come, and this was 4 years ago. I asked you to come, but when you came, I lost my words. There are going to be some people in your life where you feel like you lose your words, where there's times when you don't want to hurt their feelings, you don't want to upset the apple cart. It will. But when you care in relationship, Communication is a form of an investment. It's a form of your currency. And sometimes we are broke and we're struggling because we are withholding emotionally. We are holding back our greatness, who we really are, our shine. We are withholding because we don't want to play up anybody. I have done it in ministry. I've done it in my business. I have. And that's why I come and I share so transparently. There have been times when I had thought I was asking for what I wanted, and then when I didn't get it, I realized that's not what I really wanted. And this is why a woman must know her desires. This is why you have people like those of us who are working with our womb consciousness, where desire is the language of a woman. It's where your truth is. And so now life begins to show up, right? And then when life begins to show up, life is impartial, just like universal law. Life will come and kick you in your ass when you no longer have, you grown now, right? Because you don't have a parent to do it. You don't have a teacher to do it. You don't have a military officer to do it. So life has to come and show up. And sometimes life shows up in our children. Sometimes life shows up in our career. You know, life shows up in our money. Some of us are on jobs that we absolutely hate. That is a communication. How many times did I go and get on the metro when I was working my job? I was telling myself, one more year, I'm going to build my business. One more year, I'm going to do this. One more year, I'm going to stack my money. One more year, I'm going to do this, right? How many times when I went to the metro station and I said, gotta be something better than this? Because I would stand back and watch the people get on the metro, rush through traffic, be frustrated through traffic, and sometimes it was me, and then get to rush to parking, get out the car from parking, and then rush to go to get on the train, to bum rush through the doors of the metro just to get position where? On the train. And then I would rush to get off the train, to rush to get to my desk, to rush to do what? To get through the 8-hour day that I hated, and then and feel trapped in the 8-hour day, to rush to get back and do it all over again. That's a communication. I'm gonna tell you another communication to some of my ministers and some of those who are there helping everybody else. I was in my prayer partners will tell you, I was praying. We was praying year after year, 5:30 in the morning, like clockwork. We would get up, we would pray. We had been taught prayers and how to pray and spiritual mind treatments and okay, yeah, this thing is doing a dance out here. I better hurry up and get my point on in. So I said, LaTanya, when are you gonna quit praying the same old damn raggedy ass prayers? When are you going to keep on praying the same thing? Stop praying the same thing. I was praying year after year after year about my divine work, about my job, about money. Year after year after year. And I have tools. I have a support system. But in my mind, I'm thinking with my good girl, well, you know, I got to be able to pay my rent. I got to be able to pay my bill. I ain't got nowhere to go. I ain't got nobody. Because, see, now the thing that gets activated for women a lot of times is when you don't have a husband that's keeping you. I've been a kept woman, too. Let some of you who ease in here and you don't really have to do this work, this spiritual work, because you're being kept. But when I made a decision for myself, I had to learn how to keep me. I had to learn how to keep me, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning. So that being said, ladies, I gave about 5 nuggets. Sometimes some of the things that we are saying to other people, we do need to learn to say it to the person's face. Can you say what you said about somebody to their face? I learned this has been, let me tell you something. This is not just because I went to Intervisions or because I'm a spiritual life coach. I can't give that credit away. Okay, because there's plenty of spiritual life coaches. There's plenty of millionaires, business owners. There are plenty of people with big time ministries and big time followings who are not showing up saying who they really are because they're afraid. Do you know how many ministers don't really tell you all the truth because they can't say it to your face? And the people who are building ministries to tell you the truth, a lot of times they're struggling. But anyway, that's a whole nother ministry conversation. But what I was saying was is when it comes to saying certain things, yes, sometimes it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing at all where it's outright attack. It doesn't have to be an attack. And I will teach and share more about the skills of how to do that. Let me close with this. Communication can lead to atonement. It begins within. It begins with the work. Sometimes we do need to do our work for a few years, not just a few months, before we get to the point to communicate. A lot of times you ladies come in here, you do your work, and then the next thing you do, you trying to keep your husband up all night, trying to talk to him about the ahas and discoveries that you had, but you ain't finished doing your work. And so you go try to communicate when it's incomplete. Atonement is when there has been an incident, there has been an upset, and you come together face to face. Not on social media, not on text message, unless you have no other choice. You sit across from each other. You listen. Now we have video. Now we have, all kind of other technology that can help us. And they share the incident. You share the incident from your perspective. You don't defend it, because the way a person experiences you is their experience. Allow people to have their experience. Now, do you offer explanation? Do you offer clarity? That's a part of the atonement process. Atonement process does not always look like there has to be reunification. It doesn't always look like the marriage is saved. It doesn't always look like the friendship is saved. Sometimes the incident has been so traumatic or such a violation that it may be best that people go their separate ways. This is ideal should you choose. You do not have to do this. Sometimes atonement happens in other ways. I'm sharing the higher level option, okay? It doesn't have to be. This is not dogma. Ideally, after you've shared what it is that has happened, you make an agreement. This is key. You make an agreement on how it is you're going to exist together and interact with one another. You don't just throw up on each other. A lot of times we think communication is just throwing up on each other. I just tell you how I feel, and you did this, and you ain't shit, and or our childhood. So effective communication is not just throwing up on each other. There are times where sometimes it happens like that. We can't control that. After you have made an agreement, now then that's when the forgiveness process can begin to take place. The forgiveness does not always necessarily happen in the atonement process. Sometimes it takes time. Now, when in situations where there continues to be an incident or a violation, then you have a reference point that the agreement has been broken. You understand? That talk to me. Y'all feel me? I want to know. Come on, ask me some questions. Tell me if you feel me. You disagree. You can disagree. In an atonement process, you may have to disagree to disagree, right? And you can disagree with people without, thank you, fire truck. This is the benefits of recording outside. You get real life sounds and stuff, right? I was saying that sometimes, we think it's utopia, right? Sometimes we have to agree to disagree because we see things differently as well, right? And I thank you for the question, sweetheart. I'm going to answer that. I could give you all some more examples. Maybe we'll keep this conversation going. For instance, there was a violation in business for me with someone who went and basically tried to shade me on my money. They went to one of my clients and said some things that they should not have. Really made some just what didn't have nothing to do with me, but threw me in it. And I found out about it, and I addressed the person. And I had to really work with myself because I could have just continued to go on, and I'd done that enough in my life. But I had helped this person. I brought this person onto calls, because that's who I am. This is what I'm talking about, I brought this person on the calls and come to find out he has some other issues going on with his own self. And so so when I said something, he apologized and all of this stuff. And I said to that person, I said, I accept your apology. I understand where you're coming from. However, this is where we part ways because I cannot trust you. There's a character issue here. And I did what I did in good faith and da-da-da-da-da-da. That was my choice, my decision for me. A lot of times when we get this spiritual language around forgiveness, we think that we got to walk around and be bleeding wounds for everybody, or we have to accept it. No, you don't. You don't have to. If you've been molested, you may have gotten over it, done your work, but you have the right to do that. So I'm not talking about where you continually place yourself in violation. But when we're in relationship with people that we care about, where people we have to work with, this is the context of this entire conversation, right? I'm not talking about willy-nilly. And so I say to you that even when the violation is continual, then you can say our agreement has been broken. And so then you come back and you address the broken agreement. But some of us are still making judgments about people who don't have any clue what you're feeling, that agreements have been broken, that needs have not been met, that you are walking around with a wound or something. Some of y'all are married to people that don't even know about your childhood. I know because you tell me. And does that mean that there's some situations where you gotta grow some ovaries? Yeah. Some of y'all have married people that you don't want to be married to. Some of you married out of obligation, or there's some of us who have had situations with our friendships with women who have hurt us, women who we looked up to. Or women who we look down upon, for that matter, because we thought that maybe we were better. So communication is a full one. It's something that, a lot of times I have done this type of work with organizations and with teams. I have gone into a lot of into nonprofit organizations to facilitate teams talking. And I tell you, what happens on jobs is not unlike what happens in families. When children are involved, though, then that's when Iyanla says that children are God in work clothing, because they make you do the work. And so sometimes we get to choose whether it's a missed opportunity or a seized opportunity to go deeper into our healing. So I know that, when I just came and I poured on today, there is a structured way to learn and to facilitate and to break through this. And some of you all are doing the work. A part of when you come into sacred processes, you learn about withheld communications even from yourself, ladies. And so I want to read the comments just to see what I missed. Monique says, what about when you've done that? Asked for forgiveness, stated your boundaries, and the other person throws up on you. Then you have some choices that you have to make. But I want to say something when you say you stated your boundaries. There's a difference between sharing and telling. Most of the time we're talking and we're telling, but we're not really sharing. Telling is just like you say, you state things, you state it. And there are times, and so maybe we're not telling people off, telling people off and working our neck, and maybe we are calm. That's what I'm talking about in passive aggressive. Sometimes our telling is veiled threats too, or cries for help. Sometimes our telling is cries for help rather than just asking for the help. Or talking or dealing with the fear. Now, so if a person continues to throw up on you and doesn't respect your boundary, they either cannot hear you or they don't respect your boundary. It's just that simple. Yeah, you say you share gently, but I mean, what I'm saying is the other person may not, that gentle to them is one thing. And sometimes with ladies, sometimes with women, we talk so damn much that honestly, men can't hear us. We talk so much. Tama Aziz, I think she tuned in a little while ago. She's doing a mighty work right now around toxic lover healing. And one of the things that I love that she says is, a lot of times we take I said earlier, I don't know if you came in late, Monique, we take our issue to the issue. And yes, we do need to be able to communicate with our partners. But when we talk about at the realm of goddess, there's some work that you can do and begin to shift the atmosphere in your home, in your marriage, in your relationship for your children without saying a word in terms of talking like this. Some of us need to go to our altar. We need to learn how to work our rituals. In order to open up spaces. Oh, by the way, I didn't say that at the end of the broadcast. So tell your people who may have left a little early. Guess what? All of this came because of the magic that my husband and I were working. Because of the rituals that we were working. I forgot to say that. That's key. This could not have happened had we had not done some of the work that we had been done on the spiritual when I wasn't talking. So there was a lot of other spiritual communication happening, by the way. So let me say this, I sometimes forget to say this, and I think about, who I'm talking to. I come into Good Girls Gone Goddess because you all are people who want to be here and who know what we're here and what we're doing. We're growing forth in Goddess. And so so when I come in here, I'm coming from the context of staying on the journey and continuing to do the work of our own healing, right? And so sometimes I forget that I'm not talking about corporate America's standard of conflict resolution, okay? I know how to go into corporate America, to nonprofit organizations and neutralize what it is I'm saying. But to you ladies, I'm saying that what kind of work are you doing with yourself and with your rituals and with there were things that could not have opened up. I will share that in Juicy. I'm telling you, I just cannot even tell you the altar work that I was able to do in order for it to get to where it is here. And I will say there are some things you have to let happen. And many of us are so used to being in control that's one of the reasons why we constantly talking. Men can't hear you. Wah, 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 wah. Yeah, baby. Wah, 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 wah. Okay, baby. Wah, 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 wah. And I'm going to tell you another thing about these brothers. Some of them are so used to their mamas yelling at them and talking down to them that the only reason that they can hear you is when you going off. They can't always hear you when you're gentle. It's not their fault. I'm just telling you the psychology. That a lot of them are so used to a woman always yelling at them, bossing them around, telling them something. They cannot hear you from the way they've been programmed by the relationship that they have with their mother when it comes to male-female relationships. Okay? All right. All right. Any more questions? Did I miss anything? I'm looking. I did bring my peepers outside so I could see. I also made the script a bit bigger on my phone. How about that? Using your technology. I had to make the script a little bigger on my phone so I wouldn't be squinting at y'all. Okay, I just see a lot of, you know, amens and ouches and, you know, Dana said, I know I avoid conflict like the plague. I block out things that make me uncomfortable. When you know that, then the question is, what are you going to do about it? That's really it. And I think that's it, ladies. No questions, no comments, no ahas. I'm sure you can come into the thread. I'll keep on talking to you all in the thread. I think that there's a mighty work to be done. I'm really feeling a little bit of something just for blended families. But I had to go into my own laboratory before I could be teaching something. That's a tip for those of you who think you want to just see somebody do something and then you go try to do it. I don't do that. I go into my lab around certain things first, and then I test my results. And if my results need me to go back into the lab, I keep going back in the lab before I teach and before I invite people to certain things. So a lot of times the things that I invite you to is because I've been in the lab. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. I love y'all. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm so glad the technology held up. Ciao, everyone.